to do
Yeah,
here.
ready to rock. And I wanted to reintroduce you to everyone. You
Yes.
called in initially for an open line session where I just I typed out on Facebook, hey, we got the line open on Skype. If you want to call, you can call. And I just kind of wait and see what comes in. And you ended up calling. If you want to go back and hear that initial one, it's episode 96, Open Lines. But Greg, I'm going to kind of hand it to you because I don't know where you want to start with this, and I'm totally fine with wherever you do want to start.
Right. Well, I think we should go back and basically revisit that original story because there's a little, as I mentioned yesterday, there is a little bit more to it. And so it was, we my family and I, we went to Las Vegas for a few days, and and one of the things we did, we stopped by the museum, Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, before it was opened, and I took a couple of pictures just because, well, you know what, hey, fans, my older daughter was a fan, and she had just got married, and they couldn't come with us, and so, in any event, later that night, back at our hotel room at the Mandalay Bay, I got a text alert, sort of an alert, a Facebook alert, saying that my friends liked the picture that I posted on Facebook, and when I went and looked, it was a picture of the tree with the clown dolls in it, which I have since it has since been coined the clown tree. Mm-hmm. And which is out in front of his museum. And the picture was posted with the caption, "You can call it." And rather freaked out at 1 a.m, I kind of tossed the phone to the bottom of the bed, and I was a little bit, flabbergasted by what I had saw, because I knew I didn't post that. And I'm like, wow, this is really crazy. So I kid you not, within a minute, I mean, my wife had woke up to get a drink of water, and I'm telling you, just within a minute, maybe, I don't even know, the doorknob to our hotel room shook violently. And that's why I don't think I told when I called the original time. But it shook violently. And my wife said, somebody's trying to break into our room. I mean, it was that dramatic. And so I said, just you put in my hand, hey, quiet over there. And we waited, and there was not another sound out there, not another door opening, not another doorknob jiggling, not a person talking, no noise in the hall. And it was really weird. And I had zero interest in opening up the door and seeing who the heck was out there. Mm-hmm. So I found that very odd. Is it possible? I don't know. Maybe they were a ninja. I don't know. But, you know what I mean? But I mean, it was clearly strange because it was such a violent shake of the doorknob. So anyway, the next morning I had asked my kids, I said, hey, you guys didn't mess with me, right? And post something. And they were literally as shocked as I was when they saw that. And they said, well, how can we get in your phone anyway? But no, we didn't do it. So there was a big shock that whole thing happened. So that was the story behind I guess the next phase, which was, I had, because it was such an unusual occurrence, I really had a desire to let, Zach Bagans basically know what happened at his museum. Mm-hmm. Obviously street credibility, right? And so then just thumbing around, I caught that they were having this contest, right? To be guest investigators at the museum. So I said, well, heck, you know what? This guy needs to hear this. And so my son helped me. I put together a video, which, I guess you can find out there somewhere, and kind of explained what was going on, and threw you a plug on that.
Yes, you did.
And
Thank you.
and shoot, it was a little bit later. All of a sudden, they released the top 20, and we looked, and oh man, I wasn't on there. Oh well, I was disappointed, and then I flicked the phone over. My daughter was standing there, my middle kid, and I flicked the phone over, and son of a gun, there was my face only a mother can love. There it was. So I made the top 20, right? And this was great, man. We were jumping and hollering and all that. And so, the next day I got a message that I was one of the winners of the show. So obviously I was elated, called him, we worked everything out and set up the time where I was going to be going there to do the show. And just to give a little more history on me, from a very young age, I've always been very much a study of anything cryptid and anything paranormal. It's always been such a huge passion of mine, but it's always just been a hobby. So all this is really cool that this is all kind of going down at this point, right? Because of that. I mean, hey, you know what? Me and my friends, we drove our bikes all the way down to the Marlindu Theater in Burbank, and Legend of Boggy Creek. I mean, nice. that was a huge deal,
yes.
And since then, it's just always been, and had a lot of very unusual experiences that have happened over the years. And I've told you about a couple of them in private.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, and then later on, and so different things. And one of those experiences at UCLA, people can hear on that previous episode,
mm-hmm.
right? I think they just look for the picture of the clown.
Of the clown, yeah. That episode image was inspired by the "You Can Call It" photo. So yes,
right. And officially for this episode, you can use the "You Can Call It" picture
awesome.
if you would like to.
Thank you.
I'll send that. I'll send you a clean copy of that. So anyway, okay, so there we go. We get out there. So they had to they had to pick another winner, and chose Moonbeam, and I think it was a very wise choice, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, and it was time, to get out, and there was this big, tall, young, good-looking kid there, and I said, "Hey, they brought in some, guest actor." I didn't know who he was,
right.
but he was I mean, there was no question, this guy, and I'm talking, and we're walking, and we got our cameras on, and we're yapping, and I said, "So, you an actor, huh?" He says, "Yeah, I'm an actor. I'm a model and actor." And he says, "Oh, wait a minute." He says, "No, I'm a winner of the contest, just like you guys." So so it turned out, I guess they decided they needed an additional person, so they brought in 3 people.
Right.
And but anyway, so I guess Marty got selected right away when I did as well. And anyway, yeah, he just like I said, I could have swore he "Hey man, what soap opera are you on?" or
right.
something like that, And but I'll just tell you, just so I do not forget, those 2 are just some of the fantastic people. And and even though I mean, I literally spent just an hour or so with those guys. It was I'm sorry, 3 or 4 hours. I can't say an hour or so. Yeah, and we got to know each other a little bit, and that's Marty McCloskey and Moonbeam. And anyway, they were a pleasure to spend some time with.
Now,
so,
Greg, before you go on, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And in case they come on, of course, I don't want to tell their entire backstory. I'm hoping at one point that one or both of them would like to come on the show as well and tell their side of things and what happened that may not have made the show from the sounds of it. But what did those 2, how did they get chosen, basically? Or do you want to save that in case they come on so they can tell like the 0 to 100 on their story?
Yeah, well, let's save some stuff in that respect. And when they come on, I think I'll be on with you, right? And
yes.
So in case there's anything that I need to interject, I will. But they both have great stories from that night.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe that'll encourage them to come on a little more. I'll be like, well, I kind of teased you guys and your stories, so That would be
Yeah, well, I
amazing
think
to
they
talk to
do.
them
I mean,
too.
I think they both do, and Marty is doing a show there in Las Vegas, which is taking up a good amount of his time,
Right.
and I believe it's called let's see, Tournament of
Tournament of
Kings,
Kings, yeah.
and I know Moonbeam is doing some YouTube stuff, some investigations, which I saw one. It was pretty cool. And so, hey, they're moving right along. So, but I do know they're both interested. So we'll make that happen. Okay, we'll just get everything where it all
Absolutely.
works out.
By the way, Tournament of Kings, great plug for that show. I love that show. I haven't been in years. I need to go again.
Yeah, when I come down to the museum here and, a couple weeks down the road, I'm going to be stopping by there. Might be about 3, I don't know. But when I do come down there, I'm definitely going to go watch that show too. I mean, how can I not? Marty's in it.
Right.
So,
yeah. And they feed you incredible food that you have to eat, off your hands. And then they have I think they actually call them the wenches, that feed you the wine and the food, right? They're going with the whole period and the time. So it's, I might be speaking out of turn there, but I'm pretty sure that's what they call your server.
Yeah. Well,
which is pretty fun.
Well, it's going to be great. Yeah. No matter what. So,
it's Vegas. It's a Vegas show. So
it's Vegas. So
all right. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's plug
that's
on
all good.
because I know that people would have been like, well, what about Alex / Moonbeam and Marty's story? So I want to make sure that we kind of touched on that at least. So hopefully, guys, we'll get those two on as well, and you can hear their story too.
Yes, promise. And critical that they tell their stories.
Yeah. And
the very first thing right out of the chute. Moonbeam was sitting down. He has like a bench out in front of the door there. And, as we're walking up, of course, I'm telling them the clown tree story. And finally we're there and we're just waiting. And me and Marty are talking and he says, hey, there's a light right under you to Moonbeam, right under your seat where you're sitting. And, she's like, what, really? And she started moving her legs kind of back and forth, like to look. And it's like, wait, Moonbeam, don't do that. We don't want to see it. And I think I might have got a little just glimpse of a light, but not certain. But Marty clearly saw something. I mean, he looked right at it. We're talking. He looked right at it and goes, hey, there's a light right below you. And that was crazy. That was the first thing. And then, like I say, a lot of chatter. And during the night, I just wanted, before I forget, I wanted to mention that several times I was touched. And I'll go ahead and go into this now because a little later it'll come up again. But they came out. We met Zach, and we chatted for a few minutes. Real good guy, and all those guys really were, So anyway, they split us up and they all had us go into 3 different doors, and it started almost right away. All of a sudden I felt a tap on my left arm, and I'm holding the door open. So right then I said, there's a camera on me the whole time staring in my face. I said, wow, it's already started, And so, we got started going through the house, and I just wanted to point out that there were several times that I was touched, I would say, in that house, in one way or another, and it tapped in that left arm twice. And one thing I wanted to point out is that when we were hanging out front, and me and Marty were yapping, we were, back and forth, joking around and stuff, Marty was saying, I just want one of these things to punch me in the face. And I said, no, Marty, no, you're a model. You got to protect your face. I said, let it punch me in the face. And we were teased, and we had that interaction twice. I don't even think we mentioned it was the Halloween special. And you could see it. I know it's titled Annabelle's Curse.
Correct. Yeah.
There was about 3 times where I felt like something was messing with my mouth, like a tickling on my mouth. And so I would rub it like it was a bug or something. And that happened 3 times. And that's another thing that when we were talking, I don't even think I mentioned.
No, you didn't.
And
interesting.
And there's something to that that we'll talk about later. But that's one thing that did happen, and it happened 2 or 3 times. And then there were other things that happened to me as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So anyway, everybody's making their way through their own portion of the house. And as you saw on the show, he was he acknowledged my story and the picture, and basically insinuated that that was the reason I was there, and and that he felt that he didn't really call me there, but maybe the spirits in the place called me there, and so but I kind of okay, that's fine, and there's certainly something to it. Okay, there's a link that causes all this stuff to happen somehow, and I think I know what it is, which we would talk about on a future show maybe. So anyway, off we go, and we're for the first little while I'm wandering around, and I kept seeing this music deal go off in this one area, and I was freaked out. Every time I'd go over there, it would go off, and I'm like, wow, this is something. And then I'm not even thinking that it was a motion sensor that was going off. And when they finally told me it was a motion sensor, I'm like, oh, crying out loud, I just wasted like 10 minutes in this room, right?
That part, I was cracking up because actually I remember Zach was in what they call Nerve Center, and they were kind of watching you guys. And he's like, "Whoops, I forgot to turn that off. Whoopsie."
Yeah, well, that was the clown, right? That was the clown. And but anyway, so then I at that point I start going up these stairs, and that's where I found that clown room area, which was pretty cool. They got set up really nice and neat in there, and that's where and trust me, when I looked in the camera, which if people watch the show, they'll see, I said, "Are you the one that posted that thing on my Facebook?" I was kind of teasing.
Right.
So anyway, we had that experience in there with the clown jumping out, and that was fun. And then somehow I kind of stumbled across them, and I believe that was about the time that. Yeah, they had some stuff going on, I believe, with Moonbeam at the time inside the coffin room, now known, maybe, who knows, by the David Cook room or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they got the EVP that his name was David Cook in there. And I stumbled across them, and she was really worked up and stuff, and we hung out for a little bit. Then I tell you, it was so chaotic. I could actually be telling some things a little bit out of order. I have to be honest.
That's okay. I'm sure it's easy to forget that stuff, especially when you're kind of wandering into maybe the same room a few different times. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, with so much crazy energy. But anyway, the next thing that happens is me and Moonbeam are brought into the room with the Bela Lugosi mirror. And we move, the little curtain over, and Moonbeam did most of that. And you kind of saw really what happened there. We were both staring at it. I got really overcome. I was really almost in sort of like a frozen state, like you're getting suffocated a little bit.
Yeah, your face changed.
A little upset, a little emotional by it. And I had to break away. And, I just want to touch, if I could, a little bit on my Christian faith, because when I went in there in that house, feeling confident, okay, that I had, for a better way of putting it, the power of God protecting me.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably did quite a bit, but I probably needed to prepare a lot better, because, hey, in my mindset, it was like, these things can't affect me. Okay. I'm protected. But you know what? Regardless of my protection, they can affect me, and they did affect me. And that is something that in future endeavors, I need to be very, very aware of. And I need to be far more prepared. So that said, I snapped out of that, and I went back up to the mirror, and I just got confidence and said, no, not going to let that happen again. And something like that did not happen like that the rest of the night. I didn't allow it. And Moonbeam saw some movement in the right-hand corner of that mirror. And she kind of yelped about it because it was a shock. And she started to move away. And I kept staring. I think I was staring at that mirror for at least 10 minutes.
Oh, my gosh. Really?
Yeah, I was staring at the mirror. And in fact, Moonbeam will tell you, man, Greg, you spent a lot of time at that mirror, she told me.
Did you see movement in the mirror, or you were so zoned out?
Yes,
that
and yes. And I believe I did. And what it seemed to me was, I didn't see anything menacing. But it seemed almost like a waving, just a slight waving movement inside that mirror. Mm. And could my bowl of Frosted Flakes gone sour? Possibly, but
I've never heard of it like that.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm a big fan of.
Me.
I'm a big fan of Frosted Flakes.
I love that. Okay, so can you give a little quick background on why this mirror might have some things attached to it?
Well, okay. Supposedly, this mirror was owned by Bela Lugosi, and it was actually a mirror that was in one of his homes, mansion, whatever, and there was a person murdered in Bela Lugosi's home, and there was a lady, Cindy Lee, I believe her name was, and she was it was her uncle that apparently was horrifically, well, any murder is horrific, but he was murdered in the home. And the word to it is that it was in front of the mirror, and they feel that a lot of that energy from that event, entered into the mirror. And I think everybody knows who Bela Lugosi is, right? He was the the haunted film guy. Mm-hmm. He's American actor. He was Count Dracula. He was, the wolf. He was in The Wolfman. White Zombie. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which was hilarious. That was hilarious. If anybody can ever find that, that was hilarious. But very, very famous actor, and so makes the mirror so intriguing. And
so what happened at the end of the 10 minutes, though? I mean, what at the end of the 10 minutes made you go, okay, time to walk away or break the trance? Did you consciously go, okay, I need to walk away from this thing?
I think I kind of did. At one point I walked away because Alex she had thought that, I was right behind her. Mm. I think it showed that in the show, where she thought I was right behind her, and I wasn't. I was still in with the mirror.
Yeah.
And anyway, she called me and said, man, I thought you were right here. And no, I was in there staring at that mirror. Mm. And but I was pretty entranced into that mirror. And like I say, there's a lot of spooky stuff behind the mirror. A lot of people have had experiences over the years, so that's how it's gotten its reputation. And I could say I could be added to that list, though it didn't harm me. I don't think it was trying to harm me. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know.
Well, and out of fairness to the show as well, you guys' Annabelle's Curse was actually the second part of a 2-part Halloween special, and in the actually no, that was still an Annabelle's Curse, right? When the gentleman fell to the floor after he was looking in the mirror. Was that in the first part, or was that in part of you guys'?
No. That was that first one with I don't even know. I can't remember what they even call that first episode.
I can't remember either.
But with all the witches and the witches and all the vampire dude and all that.
Yeah. There was part 1, and he was looking into the Bela Lugosi mirror.
Oh, it was called Museum of Madness, I believe.
That's it. Yep, that was part 1, and part 2 was you guys and Annabelle's curse. So
Annabelle's curse. Now, Annabelle had been in the house the day before. So she was freshly there. And she had just left. Zach told me, she was just here the day before, and they left.
And you know what's so cool about that is the way that she is packed in and packed out. The handler, the man who is in charge of taking care of Annabelle, puts on, they look like gloves that you could probably touch molten lava and be fine. He had these massive gloves on, guys, and he was picking up Annabelle and putting her, in her metal case and shutting her. And he said, under no circumstances should anyone touch Annabelle without these gloves on. And of course, there's a whole nother side to that. I don't know when you want to get to that. If you want to save that for the proper timing, that's fine. But it was so cool to see how he handled this very supposedly haunted doll.
Well, I think now is a fine time because, he was very adamant about don't touch the dolls. But hey, you saw those gloves and you saw how he was dealing with it, and he did seem visibly upset.
He did. He seemed a little ticked off. Yes.
Because watching the episode of Annabelle's Curse, you'll see that Zach is pretty attracted to that doll, and eventually he gives in and reaches over with his left hand and touches the doll.
Yeah.
And Zach fist pumped me with his left hand. And so my joke, I made a joke on Twitter or something that hey, he fist pumped me with that hand that he touched Annabelle with, right? And and I'm just, and then my follow up was, I'm just grossed out because I don't know if they wash Annabelle's feet, but anyway, so whatever. But that was kind of cool to know that she was there, and they were really that week, I guess, really trying to whip up energy around that place.
Seems like it worked.
So they had taken her, meaning Moonbeam, not Annabelle. They took Moonbeam into the Peggy the doll room for a while, and we got to hear from her what happened there because I don't know. I was in the Annabelle room, basically. The Peggy the doll room, pardon me, in Zach's museum. Peggy is also a haunted doll. Apparently, she makes a lot of people get sick just looking at her picture. Just looking at a photo of her, a lot of people have been known to get sick. There's been one person who has claimed to have a heart attack. Lots of headaches, just cramping headaches that people have had, and nausea and anxiety and whatnot. And I stood there for about 10 minutes and didn't have any odd feelings the whole time that I was there. But looking at her, it was weird because, there were two dolls to the side of her little dollhouse that she stands in. And I swear, I thought she was moving around just a little bit, just kind of shuffling just a little bit in there. And I said, "Hey, does this doll move?" And, after a few minutes, Zach came and whispered in my ear, "Hey, Greg, that doll doesn't move." I said, "Okay." So it's just me.
You're probably it does now.
Yeah, it does now. But it even looked like the shadows from the two dolls next to her were lifting up a little bit higher. Oh. But, I've got to speculate that was just all in my head.
Yeah, you could have been a little worked up, huh?
Yeah, a little worked up from the last experience. Yeah. So that was all cool. And anyway, then my next experience, and I'm going to end with the as far as the final experience that I had there with the coffin room with David Cook. I think we talk about that
Yes.
quite a bit. So anyway, do you have any at that point anything that you think I need to touch on? Anything that's, because I'm just babbling away here.
The babbling is great. You're a great guest because
I'm a great babbler.
Yeah,
babbler.
you have your own segues, and I'm like, oh, Greg just on a roll. I love you. So no, I'll interrupt you.
But we've established prior that I'm a pretty good babbler.
No, you are a great guest for a show. It's amazing.
Well, good.
Let me know prior to, and what topic I definitely want to cover, but give me a heads up, and it's the Dybbuk box, because I have a little thing that I want to read, because I don't think that a lot of people know the possible impact of this Dybbuk box and the impact it's had on other people's lives, and the fact that it's at the museum is amazing. So anyway, but just give me a heads up before you get there, and
let's go there.
Awesome.
Let's go there.
All right, you ready for that?
I think now's the time.
All right.
And
perfect.
Did you want to interject anything first? You want me to start telling?
Actually, yeah. Before you get into actually being in the presence of this thing, I do have some facts that I have Frankenstein together, and I kind of printed them out. So if you don't mind me kind of going through this real quick, because I feel like the background is really important, because we spoke yesterday, and I told you that I really felt like the Dybbuk box is kind of the coup de grace of the museum. And I know he's got a lot of amazing artifacts in there, but to me, because I know the history of this box, I couldn't believe that he actually has this there, and I can't wait to see it myself. Okay, so without further ado, the Dybbuk box is a wine cabinet, and it is said to be haunted by a Dybbuk. A Dybbuk is a restless, usually malicious spirit, believed to be able to haunt and even possess the living. The box gained notoriety when it was auctioned on eBay, with an accompanying horror story written by Kevin Mannis, and he's the original inspiration for the 2012 film The Possession. And I just want to interject here really quickly also that a Paranormal Witness actually did an incredible episode on this as well. I really do feel like Paranormal Witness does a fine job on doing the tales justice and not doing too many dramatic additions. Okay, now Kevin Mannis, he owned a small antique and furniture refinishing business in Portland, Oregon. And according to Mannis' story, he bought the box at an estate sale in 2003. It had belonged to the survivor of the Holocaust in German-occupied Poland. It was a woman named Havela. And Havela escaped to Spain and purchased it there before her immigration to the United States. Havela's granddaughter told Mannis that the box had been bought in Spain after the Holocaust. Now, after he heard this, he goes, oh, well, I can't take this really important family heirloom. She goes, no, we don't want it. She said she told him the box had been kept in her grandmother's sewing room and was never opened because a Dybbuk was said to live inside. And Mannis did open the box, and here's what's inside. And this has been confirmed by other people. It contains 2 1920s pennies, a lock of blonde hair bound with cord, a lock of black or brown hair bound with cord, a small statue engraved with the Hebrew word shalom, a small golden wine goblet, 1 dried rosebud, and a single candle holder with 4 octopus-shaped legs. And this is kind of going to be the culmination here. Here's where the box gets really interesting. Numerous owners of the box have reported that strange phenomena accompany it. In his story, Mannis wrote that he experienced a series of horrific nightmares shared with other people while they were in possession of the box, or even just when they stayed at his home. His mother suffered a stroke on the same day he gave her the box as a birthday present. And Mannis would actually see shadow creatures in his home and get the very strong smell of cat urine while he owned it. It says every owner of the box has reported smells of cat urine or jasmine flowers and nightmares involving an old hag. And Mannis, after Mannis, it got passed to a young man named Netsky, who is a Missouri student at Truman State University in Kirksville, Missouri. And the last person to auction the box on eBay claimed that the box caused lights to burn out in his house and his hair to fall out. And that was covered quite a bit in the Paranormal Witness episode. next is Jason Haxton. He's actually the director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine in Kirksville, Missouri. He had been following Netsky's blogs regarding the box, and when he was ready to be rid of the box, Netsky sold it to Haxton. Haxton actually wrote a book about it, which I would be interested to get, but he claimed that he subsequently developed strange health problems, including hives, coughing up blood, and head-to-toe welts. Haxton consulted with rabbis to try to figure out a way to seal the Dybbuk box in the box again. Apparently successful, he took to the freshly resealed box and hid it at a secret location. Of course, that was until it got passed to Zach Bagans, and it is now here in Las Vegas at the Haunted Museum. So, Greg, and thanks for bearing with me. I just wanted to give a background for those that didn't know. The background of this box is astonishing. And, when you watch, I don't know how the movie is. I have no idea, and I have not read that book by the doctor there, but, or the director, I should say. The Paranormal Witness episode is striking because it does show that his mother, this Manis fellow, he gives it to his mother, this box, and she has a stroke the same day, and actually says to him that she felt like it was an evil gift. Like, get it out of here. That she blamed the box for her stroke. Like, she felt like that's what caused her to have that stroke. And, all right, so leaving all that behind, there's the history of the box. And you were able to be there in person with the Dybbuk box. So I'm going to turn it over to you now and tell everybody how you felt about that, or if anything happened at all while you were in the presence of the Dybbuk box.
Well, and just to elaborate a little bit, the Dybbuk box, or Dybbuk, it's pronounced a couple different ways, and in the Hebrew it's the Kufsat Dybbuk, which again simply is a wine cabinet. That it's a Jewish wine cabinet specifically, and usually they come with a blessing, and on the back of that box, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, a Shema is carved in the back of it, which ironically means God is great.
Hmm.
And debak is adhere or cling. Dybbuk equals act of sticking. So
interesting.
Yeah. So it's there's a lot of speculation about exactly what the presence is. Yeah. The soul of dead, a dislocated soul that's in disarray, but the theory behind the Dybbuk is that they will cling to their host, which makes sense to this box, until they're done with it, and then they will leave it to torment elsewhere. And Dybbuk, as you had said, is a malicious spirit. So that said, whether all of that stuff was made up or not, okay? Because let's face it, all of this stuff could be made up. I went in that room and literally backed away.
Is the box in a room by itself? Can you set us up with what that's like?
Yes. Well, I'll go in there. When I go in there, I'll tell you what I saw. Zach's like, Greg. He says, Greg, promise me that you won't do anything to provoke anything in that room. And I said, okay, it's fine. So I go in that room, and as he opens the door, I could see that it's very dark, and I could kind of see, okay, this thing's right in the middle. It was on a stand, and I reached out and could feel, okay, it had a plexiglass, protection around it, and man, I tell you what, it was so dark in there. I literally was intimidated to move around it in fear I was going to bump into something that I don't want to bump into. And I'm not talking something physical.
Yeah.
I just stood there and I was yapping, saying, hey, if you're here, communicate. I said, hey, look, if you're here, and this is a huge mistake, you just don't do stuff like this. I said, look, I'll allow you to touch my left arm. And of course, my left arm had been touched twice that night, but I truly believe that was before that. Actually, it was before that when that happened, but it's just ironic. And I offered that up, and I said, hey, and I said, hey, I'm not here to intimidate you. I'm not here to be intimidated. Just, want to communicate a little bit. And it was rather remarkable that I felt as if a giant was standing behind me, looking over me, going up and down, checking me out. And I don't know what the heck was going on there, but it was an energy that was unmistakable. It was something behind me, hovering or looking over them. It wasn't hovering over me. It was just there.
Was this after you said, "Hey, if you're here, touch my left arm"? At what point was this?
Yes, this was a little way. This was a little ways into it. Now, and prior to that happening, I kept hearing like this, like it sounded to me like cars on the street. But I said, "Is that breathing, or am I hearing cars?" Mm. And Zach came over and said, "Greg, you cannot hear cars from that room."
Uh-oh.
And I kept listening, and it sound like a car zipping past, right? But he claimed he couldn't hear cars from that room. And so I thought it was interesting. At one point, I heard something additional. I'm like, come on, that's got to be a car, right? I'm just thinking, it's got to be. And but it was almost, you could, okay, so was it a breathing? Just kept breathing, looking at me. I don't know. But it sounded kind of, like a car shimmering by, in the distance maybe. But Jack said, "Hey, you can't hear anything from that room." So, okay. So that soon after that is when I felt this amazing presence leaning over me from behind, checking me out, going down one side to the other. And I said, "Oh man, now you're here. Now I know you're here. I could feel you." I said, "Now let's communicate." And Zach opened the door. He said, "What's going on? Blah, blah, blah." And I told him what happened. He said, "Oh man, it's the same thing that happened to so-and-so, blah, blah, blah." And he closed the door and he took off and left me there again. I said, "Okay, this is great." Well, I'm just there. And now I got a little bit more gumption, and I started working my way around the box just a little bit, and then went back where I was, and I felt the same thing again come around me one more time. And right when that happened, I saw, and I'm in a pitch black room, and I saw a large shadow go across the left side.
Oh, must have been really dark because you're already in a dark room.
Yes. And I mean, there was a very small little shade of light from little lights on the camera, right? Mm-hmm. But you couldn't see anything, and I couldn't even see the box in front of me. And I said in the camera, I think when I saw that, I said, "Man, you're a big old hoss." And a minute later, Zach opened the door, and I said, "Hey, the same thing happened." And then I saw this shadow, dude. And I said, "That thing was a big old hoss." I said that to Zach, and he freaked out again. "Oh my gosh, so-and-so saw that shadow," and blah, blah, and he's just so excited. And next thing I know, he closed the door, he comes back, he turns the lights on, and he lets me see the box. And I was and at that point I wasn't shaken up, but I needed to say something. when that thing was checking me out the first time, it was testing me because I felt what felt like a needle poking at my heart inside. Very distinctively, in one spot, I felt a pinpoint pressure on my heart that lasted at least 5 seconds. And then it was gone. And I wasn't panicked. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't having any heart attack. I just felt this. And I did not acknowledge it because I didn't want it to think that it was having any effect on me. So I went about my business in there, and it went away, and that was that. And I never told anybody about that. You're one of the few people prior to today that I'd ever told about that.
Greg, what do you think if you had given into that feeling or that panic or, I mean, it's only speculation, but what do you think it was fishing for? What kind of a reaction? Or what would it have done?
I don't know. To see that it had power over me.
Yeah.
Because I told it didn't have any power over me. I told it, you don't have to be intimidated by me because of my faith. And what was I doing in there in the first place? What was Goody Two-Shoes doing in that museum? Okay. And those things knew I was out of place. What are you doing in there? And I felt a curiosity towards me. Mm. They could have just asked me. I would have told them, hey, I've been into this paranormal stuff for years, man. Just, I'm glad to be here, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Right? But no, they tested me, and it was testing me, and I'm clear as day that that's what it was doing to me. And once Zach, turned the lights on, that experience was pretty much over. He let me, I looked at the box a little closer, and I just was shocked. Where did you get this?
What did you feel like when the lights came on and you actually finally saw this box that you had heard about?
Well, it was really not. It was very. The room was very well put together. Mm-hmm. Okay, with that box, the centerpiece right in the middle. I mean, just fantastically done. Okay.
What else is around the box? I mean,
well, there was and forgive me for not knowing what it's called, but there was another wood. It was like a casing that went around it, and I'm not sure if the box was if they put the box in that casing when they buried it. Mm-hmm. and wrapped it up and stuff, and then when they dug it out, that was part of what that was in the. So it was like a protective casing, something like that. And I could be a little bit off base, but that was in there. Some information about the box was in there, and I don't remember much more. But it was, but I could say it was awesome. And what I want to say about that room and the die book room, the die book box room, is what I've told people is what is in that room. I could only describe it as a monster. That's all I could do. It's the only way I could describe that thing. Mm. And it is clearly, I can say specifically, clearly, the most dominant force in that building. And I'm telling you, it was strong. It was better than the others. And it had very little interest. I felt like it really could give a crap about me or not. Mm-hmm. But it checked me out, poked me, and moved on. Whatever, we're back, and the shadow moved on. But clear as day, there is nothing in that place more mighty that lives in that place than what was in that room. That box is just a gimmick for it. It's just an attachment. It can come and go as it wants. But a lot, assuming it's real, okay, assuming I'm not just imagining the things that I felt and saw, it can do whatever the heck it wants.
So if at one time it was rebound by a rabbi or whomever back into the box, at some point it got out and it just kind of, like you said, it's just kind of a gimmick for it. It's been released for a long time is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. If you think about, what these things are, think about it. They were before man. They were, what is a demon? It was an angel. Cast down from heaven that chose the wrong side. The Bible tells you that there's a war in heaven, and Lucifer was God's favorite, and Lucifer rebelled against God, and there was a war in heaven, and a third of the angels in heaven were cast down to the earth. They were what we now refer to as the demons and things of that sort. And so I'm telling you that this thing that was in there experienced that war in heaven. This thing that's in there has been around forever. And as all of them have. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you think, though, that then this timeless demon or creature, monster, is bound to the box a certain extent because of some ritual with the things that are inside of it?
No, because it likes it. Because they cling to things. It's a clinger, and that's what it's clung to.
So it just assumes, and it knows, and it's worked so far, that this box will be gifted or sold or passed on to someone else.
Yes.
And it's worked.
And now look at where it wound up.
Right.
Now I'll tell you what. It would be my suspicion that that thing's going to get sick and tired of people coming in there, and it's it's not going to want to be there anymore.
What does that mean for the museum, though?
Well, yeah, I know.
Because
right?
Look at what happened. If, like you said, it could all be made up. As far as the prior stories, you only know what you've experienced. But look at what happened to the young man who had it in his apartment with his roommate. They were having lights go out, and at one point they were worried a fire would start. And, they're saying that this box has these powers to extend beyond the box and beyond even just, oh, I saw a shadow, which is terrifying, of course, but that it could actually physically do things to the environment besides just a body. And look what happened to that poor old woman that had a stroke. And hey, that's just, who knows what really happened there. We cannot assume or blame the Dybbuk box for every single thing that we've read about it. But It is at least interesting to note.
It is curious, right? And there is, it's funny. There is either bad or there's good, and there's different degrees of bad and there's different degrees of good, right? But you got to fall on one side of that line, and there are all sorts of different levels of evil on the evil side, and this guy, along with the others, fall in there somewhere. And I would say that this thing has potential to be, oh gosh, like I say, I call it a monster. And that was my impression leaving that room. I was not intimidated by it. I was not scared, but I left there going, wow, okay, I know what you are,
But what if you provoked it? What if you said, all right, come home with me and show me what you've got, let's see how powerful you are. But you can't take the box with you. Can you maybe take an attachment from that box home with you? Is there more than one thing in there? What do you think?
Well, yeah, and that I don't know. But I'm certain you could take it with you. Okay. least a piece of it. I'll guarantee you could take a piece of it with you. And maybe that box is its home, but that doesn't mean it won't go with you.
Now, that room, there's a waiver you have to sign to go into the museum, but isn't there a separate waiver specifically to go into that room with the Dybbuk box?
I don't know, but I believe there is. I believe they're really intimidated by that over there. And I could tell you flat out 100% that they have reason to be.
Absolutely. I think it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Have a Dybbuk box waiver. That makes me want to go into that museum and into that room all the more. And I mean that. I would absolutely love to see that box.
Yeah, and what I want to tell people that go to the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum, I want to just, and I don't say this, I don't say this jokingly at all. I'm extremely serious when I tell you, when you go there, be cautious. Don't draw attention to yourself. Enjoy the museum. It's fantastic. Enjoy your time there, but don't be foolish. Don't try to draw something to you, because what is in there you don't want. And you know, I mean, I people, oh, you are just a wacko on the phone right now. Well, you know what? Okay, but here's my question to most people: if I'm crazy, do you believe in God? And if you say, yeah, I believe in God, do you believe in the God of the Bible? Or I don't care. What God do you believe in? Do you believe in God? Yes, I do. Well, then if you believe in God, then you have to believe in evil. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay? So if you believe in God, then you believe in evil, then that is evil in that place. Okay? Evil is there. It can be anywhere, just like there's good, just like there are angels and that protect us as well. So if you think I'm crazy, okay, well then I guess the Bible's crazy. Okay? I guess history is crazy. So I'm not, so that's all I have to say about that. So that's pretty much what happened in the Kufsat Dybbuk box room.
I can't wait to meet it. I really can. And I'm really proud to say that I really do feel like here in Las Vegas we have the world's most haunted museum. So I'm really proud to say that. I can't wait to go. All sorts
of crazy stuff. Yeah. Awesome places.
Before we touch on the other things that we're going to do, did you want to the Oddfellows skeleton and the David Cook situation?
How much time we got? We got time? Can we keep going?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's go there. Let's go there. And I know, obviously, Alex is wanting to go there again.
Yeah.
So after that, that's, I may have actually gone from there. I may have actually gone from there into the Peggy the Doll, but it might have been the other way around.
That's all right. I would be the same way. You know how I am with that stuff too, so no problem.
Moving on, which was really kind of cool because you saw, in the the coffin room. Mm-hmm. I think it's sort of what they were calling it. That Alex had the experience, before. There were so many crazy things that happened in that room that night. They brought me into that room, and just me by myself with the, trying to remember what device we were using, the spirit box device. I think that's what they call
SB7.
Yeah, something like that. And man, I was trying. And as I'm standing in there, they were telling me, Moonbeam got, it gave us a name of David Cook, blah, blah, blah. And that's when Jay came over the radio and said, hey, guys, you won't believe this, but I found something tying David Cook to the Oddfellows. And so they freaked out over that, right? And then I started trying to ask questions. I got right down in there, and I'm telling you, it would not say a word. Tried about 5 minutes, and my experience at that point, it wasn't totally as a bystander, but partly, they went in and they brought Alex back. I'm sorry, better say that. I'm sorry, Alex. Moonbeam. Sorry, Moonbeam. Moonbeam. And they brought Moonbeam back. And she started asking it assortment of questions. And it was answering. I can't even, and honestly, in the craziness, I don't remember all, and she didn't either, because we talked about it afterwards, and we couldn't remember all the things that it said, but it answered questions.
Like coherently answered these questions.
Coherently. And you saw the part where she had said, "Oh, I love David," on the show. Well, you have to understand, there was a real flirtation going on between her and this David Cook. And I was looking, thinking, you better be careful. I didn't say anything to her. They were very interested in her experience at that point because I was getting nothing. I was kind of out of the way at that point. And she was getting very, I hope it's not the right word, but almost like a flirtatious type chemistry going on. And then it turned. Then it started affecting her negatively. Then it started getting ugly. And then it started becoming a terror, no longer a friend. And she had to rush out of that room several times. And they would encourage her to get back in there, and she was a trooper, and she would go back in there. One time she ran out, and she was literally buckled over the floor, and I told her, I said, Moonbeam, you got to remember, these things are not your friend. They're the complete opposite of that. And she shook her head and said, yeah, I know that now. I realize that. And she got her composure, and they kept putting her back in there. And at one point, when I was in there with Zach and Billy was behind us filming, he yelled out, oh my gosh, that thing is swinging. And there's I thought it was a cross, but it's not. I don't even know what you call that. It's a little decoration like latch, or like a metallic tassel type thing that hangs down in front of the casket. I don't even know what to call that. I wanted to research it, as you know. Obviously, I do a lot of research. And I forgot to. But Billy said, that thing is swinging. And Zach's like, what's swinging? He's that thing. It's swinging, because he could see it in his camera. But we didn't have that sort of camera. We couldn't see. It was so dark in there. Couldn't see anything. And so we didn't feel much of it. But then later, and Moonbeam was that thing, she was in battle. That thing was raising havoc on her. And at one point, I'm standing at the camera, kind of right outside of the room watching, because I'm no longer really involved in what's going on. And trust me, I would have blown myself off too if I had action that they were getting from Moonbeam as opposed to a dud from me. And all of a sudden, they had her go over and kneel down next to the coffin. They have a little pad there you kneel down on, right? Like a prayer pad stool. And as she approached it, that thing started swinging violently. And I said, that thing is swinging again. I yelled it. They said, what? I said, that. And I said, that cross thing, it's swinging again. And they were trying to look and see it.
And yeah, I remember from one of the scenes in the coffin room that they were running the full spectrum camera and taking shots of the coffin area. And like you said, the kneeling pad. And they actually did capture a black mass down at the bottom.
Yes.
Bottom right.
Yes. And to be quite honest with you, I might have been staring at that camera that filmed that and didn't see it.
Right.
Because I was standing at that camera a good period of time.
Well, and Alex actually saw a black mass with her own eyes at some point, I believe.
Earlier, the first time in there, apparently. or I think, or at least it was when I wasn't in there, but I was pretty much there kind of most of the time on the second round. I was just a lot of the time I was maybe even out at the doorway or whatnot. And so at one point there, you know, they talked her into going back in there, and she went in there. She, like I say, she was a trooper. At this point, I kind of have the impression that whatever was in there didn't like me. Oh, man, I totally forgot. At one point when it's communicating with us, and it answered so many coherent questions, one of which, you know, it was very interested in Moonbeam, right? We've kind of already sort of established that. And at one point, sorry, I'm trying to pull something up here.
It's okay.
And at one point, Zach was saying to it, well, do you want the men to leave? Because it was very interested in Moonbeam. And Zach said, do you want the men to leave? And right then, it said leave.
Mm.
And my camera was pushed to the right towards the door. On my chest, the camera swung to the right side towards the door. Basically saying, get out of here.
Yeah.
And, it did say things. It said flee once. It said devil. But it answered some questions just like it was conversation. And I hope that Moonbeam can elaborate on some of that. But I was shocked because I'm standing there with Billy. I'm like, holy crap, this thing's answering her questions. And then, like I say, the last thing was Zach saying, hey, do you want the men to leave? And it pushed my camera, and I said, hey, someone just pushed my camera, and it told us to leave. And so we backed out of there and left her in there. And I just stood there staring into the camera that was in the doorway. And like I say, she had been really being tormented quite a bit too. And boy, it got to her, and she came out of there, like her pants were on fire. And petrified, she ran out of there, man, because it's like, oh, this thing was just raising havoc on her. She went by me, and at this point, they were messing with the thing, and they looked up at her like, hey, you okay, Bubba? And I felt something grab my left buttocks, we'll say. And there I looked at them, and I said, something just grabbed me. And they looked, and they said, grabbed you? I said, well, grabbed you where? I said, grabbed my ass. But I was shocked. I had to, I said, yeah, it grabbed my ass. And they said, what? It grabbed your ass? I said, yes, it grabbed my ass.
But something that you postulated yesterday on the phone with me while we were chatting about this was that you were wondering if maybe it wasn't a kick in the ass instead of a grab.
Well, yeah. So as over time, I started realizing, well, you know what? That thing did not like me. I was the one that wanted to leave. I was the one it was telling to leave, I should say. It pushed my camera. It wanted me out of there. And so when she ran out of there, I have a feeling, looking back, maybe it was just kicking me, telling me, get out of my doorway. And that's kind of, later on, you think of things later and you kind of figure things out that perhaps that was. It just didn't want me in there because it clearly didn't want me in there. It clearly did not like me, and it clearly liked Alex too much.
Right. You guys were completely in the way in that room.
Oh, yeah, completely in the way. And she, and she kind of opened herself up to letting them use her energy, and then those guys pointed it out. Hey, you know what? Remember you did this. That's what's going on. And so she stepped up and said, hey, you're not allowed to use my energy anymore. And I'm probably telling too much of her story, and there's a lot more that she has to tell. And she might even tell things a little bit from a slightly different perspective, some of the stuff. But those are my observations of that of that experience in that room. And I know she will back up everything, um, as far as that whole experience there. And pretty much that ended the night. Marty found his way to us with Aaron. And, Zach kind of said, hey, guys, okay, well, that's it. We're going to wrap up.
Something else we were talking about yesterday, and hopefully it comes to pass, is you might be coming out here in a few weeks, and I'm hoping to possibly, accompany you to the museum. And maybe we can get some special permissions. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but to film in there, or maybe even just have 20 minutes to, just see what we see. And having had you there already and kind of knowing the layout, I think that would be pretty cool to go to kind of the hot spots. I know that the big box room would be probably number one on the list for me, but maybe
they have allowed other media.
Mm-hmm.
They do specifically say, no cameras, no recordings. But like I said, they have had other media, and perhaps we could figure out a way to allow that to happen, right? So
yeah, just throwing that out there in the recording, just in case maybe somebody hears it that might be able to pull some extra strings. So I think that would be wonderful.
And I'll try to do my due diligence to that effect, and trying to find out who in my